This is Unit 7, Section 1. This is page 3. Let's see how much we can get done. Okay, so after you took the notes over exponent rules, we know that zero exponent rules. So anything raised to the power of 0 is always 1. So anything raised to the power of 0 is always 1. Negative exponent means reciprocal. Is when you turn that fraction or even a whole number upside down. Power rule, you multiply the exponents, and you will see some examples, and I go a little slower on the other video, the exponent rules. Quotient rule, you're going to subtract the exponents. The product rule, you're going to add. When you multiply, you add the exponents. Now, the power of a quotient rule, notice that I can go back and forth between each one of these forms. So if I have a fraction here, a over b, everything is raised to that power of m, or whatever the exponent is. Then you can break that up because a is raised to the power of m. B is also raised to the power of m. And same thing applies for the power of a product rule. So if you have these two numbers being multiplied, a times b, and they're both being raised to the power of m, so that means a is being raised to the power of m, and also b is also being raised to the power of m. We're going to go over a few examples. I'm going to zoom in because there's a lot of information here. So when I have a power raised to another power, we multiply. So I have 2 times 1/3. So power raised to another power, and we'll multiply. So 2 times 1/3 is 2/3. Then I'm going to switch that back from the rational exponent to the radical. Remember, the numerator is going to be your exponent. The denominator is going to be your index. I know 9 squared is 81, and I cannot simplify that cube root of 81. So this is your final answer. So the next step, the next question, I have 6 over 6 raised to the power of 1/4. So here we're going to apply the quotient rule, where you're going to subtract the exponents. I have an invisible 1 here because I don't have the exponent on 6. That means the exponent is 1, so I'm going to subtract the exponent. So 1 minus 1/4, that's 3/4. And then next, rewrite this from the rational exponent to the radical. Numerator is the exponent, denominator is the index. 6 cubed is 216, 4th root of 216, the end. One more. So this one is very similar to this power of a quotient rule. So notice that both numerator and denominator are both being raised to that exponent on the outside. So in power raised to another power, you multiply. That's what I wrote here. 4 times negative 1/4, and then this 4 right there raised to the power times 1/4, because power raised to another power, you multiply. And then this multiply, you get -1. This multiply, you also get -1. Negative exponent means reciprocal, so 8 to the power of -1, that goes to the denominator. That's why 8 is here. And then 10 raised to -1, that's reciprocal, that goes up to the numerator. And then you just finally have to simplify that fraction. Now this one is busy. All right. So I like anything raised to the power of 0 because that means 1. So that's why I marked that off. That -1 means reciprocal. That's why I rewrote this to x cubed in the numerator right along with this one. So, and at the same time, I multiplied this 2 with this -1. So you multiply the coefficients. 2 times -1, I got -2. And because I multiply, I add the exponents. I have this x and I have this x. -5 minus 3 is -8. Okay, and this one was the reciprocal because of that -1 right there. Okay, -2 times 2 is -4. Here I multiply, I have, and then I add the exponents because I multiply. So -8 plus 3 is -5. That would have been -5 on the numerator because of the negative that's that means reciprocal, that ended up being in the denominator right there. Okay, so it's like a million steps in one, but you got it. If you need to write the steps down, go for it. 2 more. So this one is an example of power of a product rule right here, to where everything inside parentheses, they're all being raised to that power right there on the outside. So the -2 is being raised to the power of 3. This x to the power of -3 is also being raised to the power of 3. This y to the power of -2 is also being raised to the power of 3. Now, -2 cubed is -8. A power raised to another power you multiply. So -3 times 3 is -9. -2 times 3 is -6. Negative exponents mean reciprocal. So if they're both in the numerator, because of the negative, they ended up in the denominator. Negative exponent means reciprocal. And then this -8 is just regular -8, like, you know, a whole number. There's nothing else to do there. Last one. I simplify the fraction here first. 5/25 is 1/5. Because it's 1 in the numerator, I don't have to write it. So I just have the 1/5 right there. And then because I divide, it's the quotient rule, I'm dividing right there. So I subtract the exponents. I have 2 right there, and I have an invisible 1. So 2 minus 1 is 1. So just r right there in the numerator. This one, I have a 1 in the exponent minus -2. So 2 negatives make a positive. So 1 plus 2 is 3. That's where I got that 3 from. And then lastly, I have -3 minus 2. That's -5. So negative means reciprocal. Then that's why this one ended up being in the denominator. So there's that. So that's the end of page 3. Just kidding.